Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Next Perfect Step, where all possibilities lie in conversation. I'm your co host, Laurie Mullen.
I'm your co-host, Kim McStay.
And I'm your co host, Laurie Tremblay. We have another wonderful guest with us today, Dr. Susanna Calvert, PhD, MAPP, and she's coming from with us from Virginia. Susanna is a spiritual educator, intuitive healer, and a founder of two nonprofits, the Foundation of Family and Community Healing and Sanctuary of Earth. After a 26-year career in higher education, Santa now dedicates her life to helping people move from confusion, disconnection, and overwhelm into healing, clarity, and authentic purpose. Um, Susanna has a large body of work that she's done, and we'd just like to welcome you to the show and to hear more about you and your journey.
Well, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be given the opportunity to have this conversation with you all and for anyone else who happens to listen in.
Great. Good. So could you tell us a little bit more about your work and what you do and maybe how you started in your work? I know we had a nice conversation earlier and I really enjoyed getting to know you. So,
Okay. Well, I'll start from the beginning, but I'll keep it broad. So I guess the fastest way to talk about it is just that I'd followed the Chinese American dream for the first half of my life before realizing that after I got everything I ever wanted, I ruined my life. Instead of being blissfully happy when I checked that last box off my happiness to-do list, I realized that I was miserable, and simply checking one more box off, unfortunately did not flip it, 180 degrees. And so pretty much gave up my tenure at the university, and I was lucky enough to be able to explore what really lit me up, because I realized that in order to be happy, maybe I should follow my heart instead of my head. Following my head made my resume look good. I look good on paper, but that was pretty much it. And so I soon realized that I had a passion for leadership, professional and personal development. So after teaching pharmaceutical sciences for all this time, I went back to school and got a degree in the science of well-being, a bunch of coaching credentials, and I found my dream job at the University of Georgia, supporting faculty success and well-being. And so I went there, and it was really beautiful. I had remarried, and 18 months into it, after coming back from my sister's funeral, we learned of my husband's stage 4 cancer. And I had been an atheist pretty much my whole life. And in that moment, I had a spiritual awakening. And it was pretty intense period, trying to bring healing to my husband, who eventually passed away 7 months later. And around that time, I received divine inspiration to step into my soul's purpose, my spiritual mission, if you will. And I was guided to give up my dream job and move back to Richmond, Virginia, where I spent most of my career, and put my life savings into starting the Foundation for Family and Community Healing. And this organization was to address a need I saw in the community about 10 years earlier. When I saw my kids going through school, I noticed in their classmates and in the parents and caregivers in the community that these folks were crying out for help. They were engaged in risk-taking behaviors. And I knew what it was because, as a daughter of 2 refugees from communist China, I didn't have the words to describe it. Like I wasn't necessarily calling it trauma. But I had developed, I'd spent decades developing practices in my self-care and resilience, like how to bounce back better after challenge again and again. And so I'd done a pretty intensive self-study, and my best friend is a clinical psychologist. So she never did therapy on me, but she always helped me to understand the concepts and apply them in my life. And so in the foundation, we are bringing to life these things that I consider life skills that every human on earth ought to be able to know and do in terms of our relationship with everything and everybody, most importantly, starting with ourselves. So our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with other humans, relationship with Earth, and our relationship with the divine, the loving force that connects us all. So, so that's what the foundation does, and we have a learning platform that spans this range of relationships with everything and everybody. On one end, on the side of fragility, all the way through flourishing and points in between. And it's for youth and adults. And so my dream and my vision is that this be made available to everyone in the world, so that we can fill the gap that our schools and workplaces have left in terms of our ability to be successful members of humanity and Earth. So that's the vision and mission for the Foundation for Family and Community Healing. During all of this time, when I had my spiritual awakening, my gifts came pouring in crazy fast. And it was, I'm sure you know, have a good idea of what that's like if you haven't experienced it directly. But I went from being an atheist to understanding that I have clair gifts. I'm psychic. I'm an energy worker. I've been channeling the energy medicine of an ancestor, an ancient Asian ancestor who told me I could call her grandmother. I call it yin. I do tarot readings, and yeah, I'm also a soul guide like you guys are. So bringing my own style to it. I can channel people's guidance, and the energy medicine is more of an open container than Reiki, and can bring in the elements of nature and the cosmos and deceased loved ones sometimes, and the elementals. So pretty much anything and everybody might come in for the benefit of healing, and I consider myself just a container for it. So based on this and just the fact that I've been an educator my whole life, and my belief that we are already entering a spiritual renaissance where more and more of us will want to awaken to our unique relationship with the divine. Whether we want to do it through one of the great religions or outside of it, or just find our own path like I have, that having an organization that offers skill development again, but also community and teachings from faith practices around the world, eventually, that's the goal, to support this spiritual renaissance. So those are the two organizations. And to me, it's all about the skills, the perspective and skills we need to move into the future, to New Earth, for the healing that we all need and I feel deserve, especially future generations who didn't create any of this mess. And I guess just one final thing is that I've been, as part of that, I've been leaning in more and more into my ancestry. I told you about the grandmother who shares her energy medicine with me. I call it yin. And I've discovered that my philosophy is very Taoist. So to me, I see the world as yin and yang, and where there's balance or imbalance, and where there's integration versus separation. And to me, it's just a really beautiful framework for how to move into this healing. And it's just not about right and wrong. I mean, that's just a construct. And so I think my indigenous roots, even though I was born and raised in the US, are coming through to me energetically as an offering to the world right now.
That's amazing, Susanna. That's just especially what you're doing with the community and children that need those skills like you were talking about, that you're using all your gifts to assist those who need, because we don't teach those skills in school, and we all need that skill set. So thank you for what you're doing. It just sounds so exciting that this could be useful, like you said, worldwide, and be so helpful and available to people. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I thank you for recognizing the the hope and the intent of this. I feel so privileged to be able to be of service in this way that builds upon everything I've ever done in my life, and putting it together in ways that the old Susanna, who was pretty smart, I was a professor, but not necessarily very wise, and imaginative, but not at this level. So, and letting, spirit show the way, and to reveal what we're able to be and accomplish and envision at a soul level, which to me is just so exciting, so much easier than thinking my brain had to figure everything out. I'm pretty convinced my brain not only cannot figure things out, but just tends to get me into more trouble more often than not. So it's such a privilege to be of service in this way right now, and especially with beautiful souls like yourself. What's really clear is what we're moving into, who we're becoming. We absolutely cannot do this alone. And so we have to do it together. We have to share and support each other. And when we put our offerings together, it becomes one big, beautiful, comprehensive, holistic, complete starting point.
Yes, I agree. We definitely need to come together. Absolutely. And in your story, just like our last guest, it's this exploration where we think happiness is going to come by checking these boxes. And I think we can all relate to that. We think if we accomplish this, it's going to make us happy. If we do this, it's going to make us happy. And we keep checking these boxes and happiness isn't coming, or it's fleeting. And I think it's really important. And I think a lot of people can relate that when we find our happiness and we live from that, that's when our true happiness comes. And it's not what we're doing or checking these boxes or living up to even an expectation we put on ourselves. Like, if I can accomplish this, if I can succeed in this, then I'll be happy. No, when you live from your own real true happiness is when it comes.
That's right. That's right. There's actually there's science around this. It's called the arrival fallacy. I'll be happy when, basically sums it up. And then the other part you talked about, there's a thing called the hedonic treadmill, that we acquire something luxurious or, hedonistic. We think it'll make us happy. And it works for a little while, just like you said. After a while, that fades off. And then the next thing has to be better. And so this is the treadmill, and it gets bigger and bigger. And eventually we go, God, I'm still not happy. And hopefully at some point we have an aha moment, but I'm not sure if people do. I think people start to turn towards numbing and blaming and anger and depression. If we don't necessarily find our way out of it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I can see that more and more. I mean, you can see the anger in the world right now. And I think it is come to a head of always looking outside of ourselves to find something to fulfill us, or to find that happiness. Or if we can make everybody think the way I think, I'll be happy,
Yeah.
and
Or
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So we really do need to come together, instead of fighting one another constantly. And I just completely agree with that. Yeah.
So here's my hope. And I think maybe one of the most important teachings of our generation, it's really of every generation, is about finding your truth, finding your answers, finding your healing within. And that all of this crisis, that sometimes we have to hit rock bottom in order to be willing to break open our resistance to what is, or who it, or who we are. And so these rock bottom moments can be absolutely transformational. And to me, this is the upside of the modern era of everything going nuts, is that hopefully more of us will crack open and re-examine the beliefs and habits that got us where we are. And I feel like this is really just humanity's path. Like I've had to do that multiple times myself. And I'd like to say that after, 4 decades or so of recognizing this pattern myself, that I don't go to rock bottom. I think it's still possible. I don't tend to go there as often or for as long. Um, um, but this is all described in the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, which is according to Campbell, like the story of humanity. Like when we tell stories, it's this storyline that we tend to tell. And the general premise is that, we're looking to the external world for like, here's the problems, and, there's the bad guy or bad gal or bad situation. And we see the problems as all external. And oftentimes the Shiro, I call them Shiro, realizes that framework is not working and that the solution actually lies within us. And so when they discover what their blind spot or the belief that's keeping them small, or the fear that's keeping them small, the anger that's keeping them small, that's when the real transformation can happen, when we heal that fear belief, where we heal that belief about other, being bad or I'm bad, whatever that belief is. And when we do that, we can recover this piece of ourselves that has been keeping us small. And then we can become bigger and more whole, because it's usually like a part of our childhood, our inner child, that had to adopt this belief and behavior out of self-protection. And so when we recover our inner child, then we can prevail over the situation and return with the gift, our healing, our wholeness, a bigger version of ourselves. And if we understand that this is an invitation that happens over and over again, then we can become bigger and bigger and more self-transcended. Or we could get stuck in the numbing and the denial and the blame and the repression, medications, drugs, alcohol, addictions, fighting, despair, whatever it is. So my hope is that the rock bottom will be bad enough that they will crack open, and their more beautiful, divine selves can be seen and experienced.
That's
Yeah, I like what you're saying. Oh, go ahead, Laurie.
No, please go ahead.
Go ahead. But I had a question, because you were talking about transformation and hitting rock bottom. And I'm curious, because you talked about being an atheist and how that changed and shifted for you and you became more spiritual. Was there a specific, I know you've been through a lot of grief and had to, overcome some of that, but was there like a specific incident or time period during this grief that created that for you?
Well, it was literally, I had come back from my sister's funeral on a Monday, and then 2 days later, my husband, I was on a call and he texts me. I just got back from my MRI or my CAT scan, and I have lesions everywhere. And
Wow.
like literally in that moment, I was like, oh my God, something in that moment, Kim, I knew like my life is over. My life is over. And I thought the only way to get through this is to lean into post-traumatic growth, which is this idea that you don't have to go into PTSD per se. There is beautiful growth that's also possible from trauma. Okay, so I said I have to lean into post-traumatic growth and spirit. And the only reason why I even could say the word spirit is because my now late husband and his daughter used to talk about spirit all the time. And so I just listen, and I take it in, and I just knew, oh my God, this is way bigger than me. I'm going to bring the heavens down to help him heal. So I just like became a woman obsessed. What to do? And so yeah, I pretty much just devoted myself to my spiritual study and growth and his care and just doing my job well enough that I didn't ruin that as well. So that's all I did. We had just moved to Athens 18 months prior. And so I didn't have a lot of local, I didn't have obligations in the community. So I was just able to do this.
Thank you. Yeah. That's a rock bottom to awakening for sure.
Well, it was actually the beginning of the slide, Kim, because, it was, he actually had a miraculous recovery. He was given 2 to 3 months to live and he went 7. So at around month 5, we were like, oh my God, we have a new lease on life. And we thought we were out of the woods, but then he had a setback and then it went downhill. And so I would say about the time he passed away was the beginning of rock bottom, because after he passed, like things just got worse. Because, I mean, these things have various impacts on families and relationships. And so just experiencing the fallout of the fallout of the fallout, like that took probably a year and a half to unfold. That included me quitting my job and moving back to Richmond and starting a nonprofit. So yeah, like the darkest part was probably a year and a half. And then, I've been sort of working my way out ever since. I mean, I finally feel like I'm at the part where you experience this beautiful rush of well, Campbell describes it as if you're having supernatural help and doors are flying open. And to me, I described it as an atheist back then as if you're flying on the wings of destiny. So, I mean, I've been able to see it for a number of years, but it's starting to feel like this is happening. Like basically these little tiny doors are flying open, or these great big doors are like creaking open ever so slowly, 1 millimeter at a time. It's that kind of feeling now. And so I feel like I'm finally moving out of it. But it was a real lifesaver to me because I had already worked through this in my previous dark night of the soul I mentioned to you earlier. And so for me, like it was always the hope, like I know what to do here. I know if I just move through this phase, there's this beautiful other thing on the other side. And so it really just kept me going, and just having the strength of spirit and wisdom, even though I was not very wise with spirit. Whether I am now is still questionable, but better. Yeah, I mean, we make mistakes, right? But yeah, like that was just totally kept me afloat and gave me hope every day and comfort.
And helping all of the people you're helping must be inspiring for that journey too, I would think.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's gratifying, and I've been fortunate that there's been so many people who have been supportive and affirming, and yeah, I feel like how much I've poured into it, not only time and money, because I have been spending my retirement for better or for worse. That the impact is not yet where I'd like it to be, but I also can see that the potential is infinite. So I'm just trusting in divine timing and manner. And that huge impact, I can also see the path ahead for that, and it may or may not happen, but at least I can see the path for it. So that's huge progress.
That's
What
great.
advice would you give people that are maybe experiencing rock bottom or in this dark cave that they can't see out of? What would you tell them? What kind of things that can they do to kind of raise themselves up?
Yeah. Well, so it's not an easy process. I think the first piece of advice I would give is to be present. Be present. Because we can just make it worse by having regret about the past or worrying about the future. Being present can remove all of that, but also more importantly, create stillness within. And I mean, you all know about this. Like when you have stillness within is then when you can start listening deeply, right? Because it's the whispers in the darkness that will lead you through it, not the chatter in the brain. The chatter in the brain got us there, but it's the whispers in our heart, the whispers in our soul, the whispers in our body, because our bodies also know what to do. And when we really listen and trust is when we can start to stabilize in the rock bottom and start to find the pathway out. I feel like there's not too many teachings around this, but there are, and I've actually created a course on the rock bottom. It's really all about dealing with the shadow. It's called Embracing the Shadow, and it helps us address those beliefs and cognitive biases and errors like arrival fallacy, polarity thinking, confirmation bias, like that kind of stuff. To start also working through them cognitively. So like the belief, oh, I'll be happy when, like for us to notice that's a cognitive bias and error. And to say, well, I am happy now too. You know, I'm going to like that, but how am I happy right now? Like, how is happiness available to me? So just being able to like notice what we're thinking and to challenge it and create more spaciousness in that belief, knowing that while you might be happy when that happens, but maybe that's only a grain of truth, not the truth. And maybe the bigger truth is I have happiness now, I have access to happiness now, and so on. And so by keep redirecting our belief to something that is around our personal agency, you know, where we have control, and that is of service and is realistic, is where we can start rewiring our brains. But I think, you know, there's many other things. I mean, of course, therapy and exercise and sleep, nutrition, like all those things, being with loved ones, your support animals. I like to have a toolkit for like when you're crashing or spinning out, like what do you do that is nourishing? Like nature is such a huge resource for people, if that feels in alignment. Music, movement, exercise, dance, you know, whatever little doses of joy. But to me, if we don't address those beliefs, those deeper beliefs, we keep having the same emotional and behavioral habits, which keep re-traumatized, you know, we just maintain the trauma. So we have to kind of work through the trauma. There's also deeper modalities. I mean, yoga, sound bath, breath work. I mean, anything to get us in our body, like breath work, yoga against dance. You know, I'm a fan of sacred medicines, but not as a pharmaceutical alternative. I mean, we still have to do the inner work in my point of view. But I mean, like I'd never wish rock bottom on anybody. And I also celebrate the opportunities that it presents to people. And I hope people also know that there's so many people like you all here who can help guide us through.
We wanted to have a space for that, for conversations and people that could feel safe and get some insights like such as you've shared with us so beautifully today. So that's our goal, is to just create that kind of community space here for people that can listen and learn about themselves.
Well, and thank you for doing it so beautifully. I mean, I know how much work it is to make this happen, and the commitment of the three of you to make this available to everyone is really so beautiful. And I am grateful to you on behalf of me and so many others.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important what you said. I used to have a program called Breaking Barriers, and it sounds very similar, that most of the time we're creating misery in our own head. It's the, I'm supposed to think this is supposed to mean this. I'm supposed to do this. It's that supposed to, right?
Right.
And that we're creating it in our own heads. And if we can take a few minutes, like you said, with the breath work, or to be still, or to be in the present moment, that we can realize that we're creating our own misery. And how can we stop and say, that's not what I want? What I really want is happiness. What I really want to be is happy. And so what baby step can I take right now in this moment to go in that direction? So I think your program, is extremely helpful and needed right now. And I think it's really important for us to realize that a lot of the times we think that something outside of ourselves is creating all of this misery, when really that it's our own belief system and our continual just subconscious thoughts, like just we've been playing over for so long that we don't know another voice that is really living within us.
You just said that so perfectly, Laurie, and I couldn't agree with you more. And to me, it's like we are absolutely giving away our power, our peace and our power. And thank you for helping everybody see that we can reclaim our power, our power to be happy and peaceful, and feeling whole and safe, like that's only within us. Nothing out there can make us feel that way. We have to decide to ourselves and, work through the process through, by uncovering our subconscious beliefs about it. So yeah, just there's very few lessons on earth right now more important than that, I feel, for the misery that's everywhere. Thank you for saying it so perfectly.
Yeah, and I really agree with that. And what I do find working with clients is that, even when you shift your belief system and you start to recognize and become aware of how you're reacting and acting in life. But what I'm starting to discover is that one of the roadblocks with that is that the allowance of, because it's uncomfortable. When you start to feed your own soul, that becomes uncomfortable because our old belief systems tell us that that's selfish or that's, not thoughtful. So that ability to receive the self-love that we're discovering, or the wanting to be generous to the world in an expansive way as opposed to in a directive way. I think it's really hard for people to make that shift from switching their belief systems to accepting their new belief systems. So now you're being received differently from people, but are you second guessing that? Like, are they just, doing it for this reason or that reason? Or are you able to really open, allow, and receive? And, I think that that's a huge struggle for people.
Yeah, because it's sort of in our head, right? Like, I know I'm healthier. I know I should go exercise more, but, knowledge is not powerful enough in many cases.
Yes.
Right. But in the Western world, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. We have the whole internet plus AI at our fingertips, and are we any happier? So this is where rock bottom comes in, or great challenge. Thank goodness we have rock bottom. But when the status quo is more uncomfortable than change, then people will make change.
Yeah.
And then it is so easy for us to rationalize and to be in denial and to deflect. Like, I don't have to work on myself if I'm focusing on how Kim needs to, Kim, you need to blah, 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 right? When I'm doing that, I don't have to focus on my own need to
Exactly.
blah, blah, right? So what is it? Distract ourselves. If I over care for Laurie, oh, Laurie, do you need anything? You just look tired. Do you want me to help you with this, that, and the other? Like, again, I don't, if I'm so needed and important over here, I don't have to worry about, my own path and my own anxiety, my own despair. It's just another form of distraction, or feeding our numbness. And it is hard because, oh my gosh, our deepest fears are our deepest fears for a reason. They feel like they could be annihilating to us, like we could die. Like our hot buttons, in the moment, it feels like we could die, we could be obliterated, right? That's how our physical reaction is, our emotional reaction. But of course, it's not true most of the time. And so, of course,
Right.
I want to go there. It's terrifying. Who would do that willingly? But yeah, that's why we have rock bottom. Unfortunately, we're all going there.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you, Kim. And I think that some of it is because I know, there's steps to this. And I have trouble with allowance sometimes too. And I completely can relate to everything you just said. And we live in a society where, and I went through this in my own, where I did the work. So therefore I should be at the end of it. It should be healed. I should know this. I should be able to do this. And it just should be done. And we don't appreciate that we've taken 40, 20, 60, however many years of doing the same thing and doing it the same way. And it's not going to be instant. Like there are steps to it, but you have to make the first steps. And it is completely uncomfortable to become somebody new. But it's not the instant. It's not like, oh, I got the tool, or oh, there's, this first step, and then I'm just supposed to not be uncomfortable and allow it and be this new person. And we really need to embrace the whole process, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm completely a person who, like you said, I want it all now. I don't want to wait, right? We're used to everything in our world being instantly there. Having the answers instantly. You can Google it and you got the answer, right? I mean, so yeah.
I just,
I struggled myself with what you said.
Yeah. Well, and I find it interesting because, it's like a lot of the people that I work with, they know exactly what they're feeling, but it's the trust in accepting that and opening up and being available to live it is like, I'm just noticing that's a real block for a lot of people. So, I think the work that we're all doing is helping to diminish that block for people. I really do.
Yeah. And in defense of all of us, this is what we've been taught, right? Like, don't trust your feelings. Don't trust your gut. Don't, but just knowledge is power. Be knowledgeable, do things. And all of that's important. Yes. Like all of that's important. I'm not saying we shouldn't do things and think things through. I mean, that is yang. And the more feminine yin, the more receptive and emotional and intuitive and, messy, creative things are like, oh, that's terrible. That's messy. That's not good. That's not logical. Like we are taught to reject that. And so, and it's not that we should just flip over to that, 180 degrees, even though I think I tried. It's more about the integration and balance. Like it's both and. Why do we feel like it has to be either or? And I also didn't mean to make this sound like, oh, you can only when you hit rock bottom do you, so I don't mean to say that either. It's just that sometimes that is what is somebody's introduction to doing the inner work. And in reality, anytime something feels challenging, that is the invitation to go in there and get your sandpaper and see what's sticking out, what's poking you on the inside, and work through it. So this growth is always available. And I'm hoping, as I am more noticing discomfort as an invitation to do that work, that the rock bottom thing is less likely to happen. But who knows? I'll keep you all informed.
So these are some of the things that you talk about in your course, I'm sure. Isn't that right? Like coping tools is in your foundation.
Yeah. I mean, the foundation has this whole spectrum. It's really, to me, is very much a resilience. It's so much about resilience and flourishing through relationship with self and everything else. Like again, because like your power is within. So if you give your power to your environment, then, you're not doing so well, as Laurie said. And so, yes, like I have a course on the Shiro's journey. So about that inner work, and then embracing the shadow is, okay, well, what do you do when you hit rock bottom? Or what do you do if like you're just feeling challenged and stuck? Like you don't have to hit rock bottom to do the work. It's just the biggest motivator, potentially. So yes, there's coursework there. And then for people who, and we're, one of our new courses it's about to be released, called Uncovering Your Authentic Purpose. Because once you start clearing away these fear beliefs and stuff, you start to sense yourself in a different way. Like, oh, this used to be really important, pleasing everybody and being perfect. Well, what if that's not part of my life? Who am I then without that? Like, what does my heart want to do? Like, that's what I was asking myself, right? Such a privilege, a first world privilege, to be able to say, what does my heart want to do here? And so when we start to we can clear this out, we can be more clear within, and our deeper sense of purpose, our most natural and authentic gifts can be revealed and put together for the solution that the world needs right now. Like, the solution doesn't need another, a second this, that, or the other, Bill Gates or whatever. The world needs us in our wholeness, each of us in our unique wholeness. Yeah, and Sanctuary of Earth, when you go deeper, we have these classes on intuition and healing and these more spiritual things. I also have my own personal practice, so if people want a one-on-one, they can also seek me out for that.
So what are you doing with your one-on-ones? Like, do you do intuitive work with that? Do you use tarot and things like that as well?
All of the above. So I pretty much, so I used to think the height of professional accomplishment was being the expert. And I went from that to being the coach, where I'm just being curious. And now my aspiration is to be a blank container and conduit for the divine. So I would just sit with somebody and ask what their intention is, and for this time together. And often spirit will want to deliver a message, either through one of the clairsenses. Sometimes people want to talk to their spirit guides, and I'll just be the translator. Sometimes when there's a lot of constriction in their energy, I do energy work, and the guides would just tell me. And I would offer that to the client. And I'll often end with a tarot reading, which just, I don't know, like spirit and the energies just are able to explain things and offer insights that is way above my pay grade, like orders of magnitude. So I let them do the work, and I just try to keep myself out of it. Sometimes spirit will say, oh, tell them this story, this story about, or teach them what attachment style means, or, so sometimes they'll encourage me to do a little teaching or tell a story. But basically I just come in and let the energies direct the intention of the client, and the energies direct the offering. And like I mentioned, like sometimes when I do the yin energy medicine, like pretty much anything or anybody might come in. Like I had a client who said, I have this attachment with my deceased dad. He just doesn't get out of my energy. And so it's like, sure, my guys were like, yes, you can work on that. So I start working on her, and I'm like, hold on, I need to work on your dad here. So I started doing energy medicine on the dad. And sometimes the planets or celestial bodies will come in, and once Moon, like, just boom, appeared in the room and is like, got this. And I was like, okay. And I literally just like sat there, and I was like, waiting for instruction. And so it's just really amazing. I mean, it's just I feel like I have front row seat to the best show in the universe, so it's an honor for me to work with people, because I don't get to experience that as much unless it's with somebody, So like my own is amazing, but it's even richer when somebody else is bringing this beautiful part of the universe into the interaction that I've not had access to in that way. So it's yummy, very yummy.
And you and I had a conversation to schedule the podcast. So we had like an introductory conversation on Zoom. And I had the honor and privilege of receiving a reading from you. And it was just amazing. I still can remember some of the core points that went deep inside. So thank you for that. That was just incredible. And I appreciated it so much.
Oh, thank you for the feedback, dear. I mean, it's always my joy to do the work with someone who's okay. So just a little phrase is wanting to come in, who's really in it heart and soul, and for the sincere benefit of everybody and everything, and to be of service in her highest way, and with the greatest integrity and love. So that just came through as a little affirmation for you, Laurie, that yes, that's somebody who's so sincere and earnest and committed. Like, it is truly a gift to be in energy, in relationship, in collaboration, whatever, in the container with.
Thank you.
I'll agree to that.
You're here.
We love her.
Yes, yes.
It's an honor. Where can we find out more about you and your work?
Well, thank you for that question. So the foundation, you can find our learning platform on the social, emotional, psychological skill development from fragility through flourishing at healingedu.org. And if you're looking for classes on spiritual development, you can go to sanctuaryoferarth.org. We have, usually 1 or 2 classes available at a given time. We're still very, very new. If you can go to susannacalvert.com to learn about me and book a session, or you can email me at susannacalvert@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from any of you, anybody listening, and especially you 3, if you care to follow up in the future on anything.
Absolutely. And we will put all the links down below in the comments so they're easy to find. And you don't have to remember all of the different ones. So it'll be easy to link with Susanna.
Thank you so much. I just so appreciate your offering your beautiful gift to everybody, and for the opportunity to share your community with me for a few minutes.
Absolutely. We very much appreciate you being on. And if you have liked this episode as much as we have, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, how is your intuition leading you to the next perfect step?